They called this era the Age of Mechs. In the galactic war against the alien races that sought to wipe out humanity, warships and weapons played an essential role. Yet a nuclear bomb was too destructive if used against humans. Infantry, tanks and artillery enjoyed a resurgence of popularity as the fractious human race fought over their own territory. Any invaders forced to operate on enemy soil, the conflicts often devolved into wars of attrition. They would find out in dismay that they lost more money from their army than what they gained in territory. Ever since the legendary Mech first stepped on the battlefield with a giant humanoid machine called a Mech, war had changed forever. This alone ensured that Mechs dethroned all other service branches. The Age of Mechs unfolded into splendor. Major arms manufacturers invested in the rapidly growing mech industry. Unfortunately, only a small number of elites could step into the true world of mechs. Those interested in piloting an authentic war mech needed the right genes. Only a mere 3.5% of all of humanity possessed the right genetics to successfully connect to a neural interface. Ves Larkinson was born with the conviction that he belonged in the cockpit. His father was a mech pilot. His 10th birthday changed his life. His genetics marked him as one of the 96.5%. No matter which word was in vogue, VES became a commoner doomed one. So Ves turned from a precocious boy who dreamed about mechs into a sullen teenager drowning himself in games. After graduating from high school, Ves finally pieced himself together once he considered his future. If he couldn't pilot a mech, then he'd be the one to make them. Ves entered an ordinary university, and after finishing his studies, he discussed with his father to open a mech workshop. Ves returned to his home planet and saw that the workshop his father bought for him. Strangely, no matter what kind of way, his father could not be found. It was confirmed that he was missing. After weeks, the cloudy curtain planetary bank quickly came knocking. It turned out the workshop components had been bought with a loan. His father borrowed a huge loan to buy these assets, but now he has disappeared, leaving a mess for Ves. The only thing he left behind was a package hidden in the bank. When opened it up, Ves was mildly surprised to pick up a secure data chip. It took 3 seconds to load its contents, and an unknown program suddenly took over the holographic projection. Initializing the Mech Designer System. New user detected. Initiating deep scan in 2400 mini-cycles. Please prepare properly. Wait, what? Ves asked the program. Just before the calm released a huge shock, Ves passed out in an instant. It was the data chip. Cautiously, Ves activated his comm. He found that the addition of one new program, the Mech Designer System. Since he couldn't get any more answers, Ves decided to run the app. Welcome to the Mech Designer System. Registering new user Ves Larkinson. Welcome package granted. It is your lucky day. The Mech Designer System is the ultimate tool to design any machine that falls under the category of mechs. Any authorized user is allowed to use this system's many tools to design any mech imaginable with no conceivable limits. But, you will be required to exchange a corresponding energy value, expressed in design points. Ves checked the information of the system and learned that he could get very little energy value every day, so he couldn't make anything at all. He let out a helpless sigh and accessed the system's menu and welcome package. He opened the inventory last. He curiously tapped the welcome package. It had the 10 design points, 3 copper lottery tickets, and a small mechanical cat. This gold-ranked auxiliary companion is an extremely rare random draw from the welcome package. The creature in front of Ves shifted. The holographic interface dimmed as the projection of the mechanical cat brightened. The cat thudded on the floor with an audible thump, meowed and physically brushed his leg with its very real body. Only until now did it sink in that Ves's father had left him an impossibly amazing software. According to the system, this cat ate minerals and digested it into gems. These gems ought to be quite valuable. He might be able to earn some quick cash if he sold these shiny gems. Do not overestimate the gem cat. At level 1, the pet can only excrete 1 gem per week. Ves sighed in disappointment. The cat booped his nose with its soft paw. Well, let me call you lucky, since I'm counting on you to be my lucky charm. The mech cat adorably meowed in response, indicating that its artificial intelligence possessed at least some form of low sentience. He approached his desk and turned on the computer terminal in order to do some research. Considering his current situation, the only economically viable market where he could realistically services was mech repair and maintenance. Ves had his eyes on a game called Iron Spirit. The high-performance mecha in this game all needed to be customized and crafted by designers. Ves decided to get the license of this game through the system and start his own business. Using a virtual mech license from Mech Designer System, Ves created and customized his debut mech, named Fantasia 2RE. With the help of the Gemini Twin Energy Booster, this mech has gained a new lease on life. Congratulations on completing the first part of the tutorial. The rewards have been sent to your inventory as a result of completing the tasks given by the system. Ves was surprisingly given the mech and components that he had designed for the first time in the virtual game. Afterwards, the system gave him a second mission to sell this mech he designed himself. You're setting me up, system. Even if I find a buyer for the 2RE, I still lack the funds for the necessary raw materials. Just as Ves was crestfallen, he noticed the bonus offered by the system, 100,000 bright credits. After he finished the mech, a player named Shifter66 immediately noticed the mech. He enjoyed piloting faster mechs. There was something about running in a multi-ton machine that charmed him. Promptly, he acquired the Fantasia 2RE and immediately joined the game to commence the match. Unfortunately, the opponent he met was a GH model that restrained light mecha. After several engagements, Fantasia 2RE was obviously not the opponent's opponent. Just after, opponent Triceratops gave a triumphant smile. The Twin Gemini Rear Ejection Energy Booster. Gemini Twin Rear Ejection Energy Booster, which ejected Fantasia instantly with substantial thrust. After a violent crash, Shifter66 won the match unbelievably. Triceratops, who turned out to be a boy just a year older than Shifter66, simply sat stunned in the simulator. Right after the virtual mecha designed by Ves was sold, the system immediately issued a new mission. How am I supposed to sell 100 of them in a month? Although Ves' face was full of disbelief, the work at hand still had to continue. So it's called a Seraphim, huh? It sure turned the Fantasia into something incredible. With a lot of money invested by Ves and dedicated work around the clock, Seraphim was born. Oh, Triceratops widened his eyes. Chasing Clouds finally uploaded a new mech. This mech is out of my price range. But I think I know someone who can. The seventh snake. After watching that replay of the matchup before Triceratops, the seventh snake didn't hesitate to buy Seraphim. Unbeknownst to them, an exciting match awaits the Seraphim. Hey Ves, are you in? It's me, your cousin, Melinda. Ves exclaimed, long time no see. The two entered the workshop's small living apartment and sat down on a beaten-up sofa. Oh, it's so cute, Melinda gushed as she picked up the cat. What's its name? I call him Lucky. I'm counting on him to turn my life around. Ves responded, then sighed. I know you didn't come because you missed me. Tell me what the family wants. I don't know where Dad ended up, but I'm sure he's still alive. We all hope so, Ves. But life has to go on. They think you're still 20 years too young to take up the responsibility to run your own mech business. They only want what's best for you. It sounds slow for me. I want to make a name for myself as a mech designer. Melinda, I understand where you're coming from, but I choose to shoulder the risks. This is my father's legacy. I thought you'd choose to do so. I guess the only thing I can bring back to the family is to tell them about your resolve. Well, you've got your work cut out for you, and I'm looking forward to our next meeting. Melinda smiled at Ves. Melinda was one of the few who kept a proactive friendship with him. It was times like these when he faced some difficulties did Ves realize how much family meant to him. What's this? Ves asked as he activated his comb. It unfolded into a brochure. It's the Young Tigers exhibition. In recent years, they expanded the program to include a mech designer contest. Good thing the YTE starts in 2 months. Hopefully it'll be different when time passes. Ves completed the system's third task on time and received a 10-year lottery ticket for a combat mech license. Now it's time for the main show. With a satisfying pull, he ripped the ticket in half. Festive bells rang out as a transparent man-sized pagoda dropped down from the roof. Congratulations, you have received a 10-year production license of the following mech: National Aeromotive Caesar Augustus CA-1. As Wiscon, the CA-1 was a white elephant that was difficult to produce and required constant babysitting. But he wasn't ready to give up. A tentative plan already drew in his mind. This made the biggest gamble of his life so far. As a last-gen mech in today's standard, the CA-1 counted as a 5-star mech in the game. A CA1 would fetch around 50,000 credits. However, Ves only had approximately 9,000 credits on hand. In the meantime, he had to release a number of mech designs in the game in order to generate even more credits. He visited Iron Spirit's support site and submitted a refund application. In the end, the total amount of credits Ves expected to get back was 37,499 credits. With about 45,000 credits in cash, Ves was more than ready to start producing Caesar Augustus, but he hesitated. The Caesar Augustus was a monstrously complex mech. If Ves couldn't match the stock model specs, he'd have an unsellable mech at worst. I'm not alone in this, I have Melinda. Ves realized as he slapped his forehead. The CA1 is a beast of a machine, not something a fresh college graduate should come into contact with. I can ask the mechanics for some tips. He'll pass anything I can find along to you as long as it's not classified. Thanks a lot. I'm sorry for troubling you that much. Hey, your family, Vessie. I do anything to help. I gotta go back to work now, so see you later. With that done, Ves turned to a different issue. He needed to rework the CA1. The battlefield finished, loading, revealing a ruined city. Come on, let's stop hiding like rats. The seventh snake publicly declared. I'm right here, shoot me if you can. The Seraphim flew into the air and over the skyline and easily caught sight of the enemy mech. The Seraphim snapped back with a couple of shots of his rifle. The other guy's still lurking around. You might get sniped before you know it. He'll take that risk. The seventh snake jumped off the roof, spread his mech's wings and made a high-speed dive towards the enemy. The heavy mech panicked a little. It jogged towards the nearest structure. Just as the mech barged through the entrance, Triceratops' phantasm dropped from the ceiling. A sniper, why did he stay hidden to the point of letting his teammate die first? I got you now, the seventh snake yelled as his wings finally broke apart from the stress. The Seraphim leaned over with its shoulder and bashed it against the unprepared phantasm, knocking it off balance. I've avenged you. The seventh snake sighed as the game confirmed his victory. They called this era the Age of Mechs. A young man named Ves had entered here to fulfill his dream of becoming a mech designer, and today, he sold a mech he designed. The skill tree featured a virtually endless amount of skills. However, Ves knew the virtually limitless potential of the Mech Designer System. Ves lived in a world with finite time and resources and understood he wouldn't reach the ultimate capabilities of the system. Ves contemplated the incomprehensible nature of the Mech Designer System and its potential consequences if it were to malfunction. Ves felt the need to make the most of the system while he could. He created a shopping list of skills he needed for the Caesar Augustus redesign. Ves spent design points on acquiring skills like Assembler, Proficiency I, Assembler Proficiency 2, and others. Ves examined his updated status, which included his name, profession, design points, attributes, and skills. Ves entered the virtual workshop and prepared to start the redesign of the Caesar Augustus. He purchased raw materials for the mech in the virtual workshop. Ves began transforming the raw materials into components, starting with the mech's frame. A whole night had passed. Exhausted, Ves finished the mech and awaited evaluation from the Mech Designer System. What do you think, system? Did I do a decent job? Why aren't you giving me an evaluation yet? The system explained that it only evaluated original designs, not copies, and advised Ves to work on his own designs. Ves discovered that his production of the Caesar Augustus was still flawed. Ves switched to the sales page and put his first Caesar Augustus on sale. He put a tentative price of 45,000 credits. Ves acquired the first tier of the skill, which the system called incompetent. Countless knowledge and data were squeezed into his brain, leaving Ves' consciousness blank. The next second, he dropped to the floor and tried to hold his screams as he held his head. To calm himself, Ves took Lucky out for a walk. He recalled how he had entered this dark and complex world. Melinda called and told him she talked to a retired technician. She sent the retired technician's note to Ves and wished him good lucky. The note inspired Ves. He couldn't wait to start his design. A week had passed. Ves looked at his finished work. He had named it the Nero. When Ves clicked on his sales page, he found that someone had bought his half-baked Caesar Augustus. Although curious about the buyer, Ves didn't think too much about it. I now have enough points to make Nero. Ves has been wondering what is the X factor, but turns out he had already saw it. Along the Combe River, Benjamin was fishing. An aircar approached the villa. The aircar landed on the tarmac and Ark got out. They discussed Wrinkle, the elder brother of Ark, and his mysterious disappearance. Benjamin expressed his concern about Wrinkle's involvement with pirates. They discussed Ves, Benjamin's grandson, and his recent activities. Ark mentioned that Ves has been performing above average in mech design and had sold virtual licenses. They talked about Ves' difficulties with financing and impending interest payments. Benjamin decided not to provide financial assistance to Ves. Benjamin instructed Ark to keep buying Ves virtual mech variants to track his progress. Ark was also tasked with investigating the future Sun's technology institution. Ark left the villa after their conversation. Back on Cloudy Curtain, Ves finished fabricating the CA-1 and Nero in the game Iron Spirit. Ves reflected on the challenges he faced during fabrication. Ves put the Nero on sale in the game. He considered the pricing of the Nero and hoped for higher profits. Ves contemplated his lack of skills and resources to improve the CA-1. He received a new mission from the Mech Designer System. The mission involved designing a mech with an X-Factor. Ves was intrigued by the rewards of the mission, including a production license and raw materials. Ves pondered the meaning of X-Factor and started researching it. Ves felt a headache as he tried to understand the system's description of the X-Factor. He reflected on the history of warfare and the role of mechs in modern combat. Ves attempted to research the X-Factor on the galactic net and found various opinions on the topic. He watched interviews with mech pilots discussing their experiences and beliefs about mechs and the X-Factor. Ves contemplated whether mechs could possess life and the X-Factor. He reviewed the evaluation of his Fantasia 2 or Seraphim mech design and its X-Factor rating. Ves puzzled over why the Seraphim had an X-Factor rating while other variants based on the Fantasia model did not. Ves checked his sales log for the Seraphim. He identified a player named the Seventh Snake who piloted the mech frequently and effectively. The Seventh Snake just sacrificed himself to save his teammate, but he has lost all his strength to fight. Joshua returned home from school. His elegant mother greeted him, holding a babbling toddler. They had a conversation about his school day and his mech training. Joshua expressed his desire not to join the mech corps. He headed to his room to play in the simulator, with a reminder from his mother not to forget dinner. Joshua descended to the basement where his personal mech simulator was located. Joshua entered the simulator, which transported him to the virtual world of Iron Spirit. The virtual world was bustling with young players, some watching live streams and others shopping for outfits. Joshua contacted his friend, Triceratops, for a game in the arena. Triceratops addressed him as Snake. They decided to play Capture the Flag mode as a duo. They discussed their team composition, which included light mechs, a heavy knight, a medium missile platform, and a spider mech. The match started, and Joshua and Triceratops focused on scouting the enemy team. The enemy team was revealed to have 3 powerful heavy mechs. Joshua engaged in combat with an enemy air scout. He noticed that someone named Chasing Clouds was spectating him. Joshua defeated the enemy air scout. He surprised and engaged 2 enemy heavy mechs from behind. Intense battles ensued, with the Seventh Snake eliminating one of the enemy heavies. Meanwhile, Triceratops secured the enemy's flag. The Spider Mech player continued to engage the enemy light mech. Joshua returned to their base to help defend. A battle ensued, with the Seventh Snake sacrificing his mech's legs to take out an enemy heavy. Triceratops successfully captured the enemy flag. Their team secured victory in the game. We won. We got it. After the match, Joshua realized that Chasing Clouds had been spectating him throughout the game. He stared at the name, Chasing Clouds. That sounds familiar. The boy is very tired, but kept working, because he finally found the answer he has been looking for. Ves watched the Seventh Snake's replays and was impressed by his mastery of the Seraphim. He noted the Seventh Snake's remarkable skill in aerial combat and ground attacks. Ves initiated a call with the Seventh Snake to gather feedback on his mech design. Hello, I saw you spectating my last match. Who are you? In the mech designer who created the Seraphim variant you're piloting. Ves was surprised and thrilled by the respect the Seventh Snake showed him. The Seventh Snake expressed his strong attachment to the Seraphim, mentioning that it suited his playstyle and made him feel passionate. Ves inquired about whether the Seventh Snake had experienced moments where the mech provided assistance or guidance beyond standard control. The seventh snake was unable to recall such moments, but emphasized feeling at ease and comfortable when piloting the Seraphim. Ves then asked his last question, "Do you believe your mech is alive?" Joshua answered honestly, "Piloting my Seraphim makes me feel more alive than anything else." Ves pondered the role of emotions in achieving the X factor. Ves considered the neural interface as a potential factor in transmitting emotions from pilot to mech. Ves realized that despite his efforts, he lacked a clear theory on how to achieve the X factor in mech design. Lucky brought him another gem, and Ves contemplated the nature of life and emotions. Ves realized the importance of emotions and decided to design a new mech with this in mind. Ves revisited the CA-1A Nero and saw that it had been sold once for 60,000 credits. He decided to redesign the Nero to see if he could create a mech that enables pilots to reach the X factor. Ves theorized that a mech designer's emotions and intentions played a role in creating the X factor. He believed that the alignment of emotions expressed by the designer, mech, and pilot determined whether they could produce the X factor. Ves worked on the Nero Redivivus, trying to infuse it with a sense of confidence and competence. He finished updating the Nero Redivivus and named it after the Roman emperor. The system evaluated his design and gave it an overall rating of A, with a trace of the X factor. Ves received design points as a reward. He decided to practice fabricating the Nero Redivivus to prove the existence of the X factor. In finally done with this, the system rewarded Ves with more medium armor raw materials packages, and Ves wished he want encounter another pagoda. The mech designer has won the chance to spin the lottery wheel. Will he get what he needs the most? Ves had been patiently waiting for an armor production license. Ves didn't want to win another high-end armor license after the costly Caesar Augustus debacle. Hopefully the lottery will bring me something average. When the lottery wheel appeared, Ves was relieved that it wasn't the cursed pagoda again. Ves patted his gem cat. "Lucky, wish me luck, Lucky. Congratulations, you have received a 10-year production license of the following armor component." Ves considered it rather average. It looks a little cheap. Further examination revealed that it was a standard armor component. Ves checked the accompanying message, signed the license, and sent it back. The raw materials package Ves received contained a substantial amount of ingots, minerals, and powders. Ves calculated that even with 200 tons of raw materials, they might not yield enough plates for 2 mechs. Ves would also need to cover significant energy costs. With only 4 weeks left until the Young Tigers exhibition, Ves aimed to create a viable design to showcase to the elite attendees. The production and sale of the Caesar Augustus would be too hard for him. Therefore, Ves decided to focus on designing a new variant of the Caesar Augustus. Ves believed he needed to start fresh with the X factor in mind from the beginning. His intent was to keep his design simple and compatible with the base model's design. "I don't have enough time to experiment with intents." With a clear purpose in mind, Ves began working on the armor. He decided to start from scratch, retaining only the ingenious joint protection methods from Jason's design. From legs to chest, from function to performance, Ves carefully designed the mech. Ves completed the exterior design of the Mark Antony. The mech embodied Ves' intent of aggression, momentum, burst power, and a touch of flamboyance. The armoring process, while challenging, was rewarding for Ves. He was satisfied with the results and confident that he hadn't wasted his time. Now, it's time to revisit the internals.